Welcome into Extra Time. Thank you as always for your tweets before you get to your questions. Shaka, how was your Bundesliga experience today?
It was fantastic. It was so good just to have football back on, live on TV, like happening live. That was great.
Yeah, it really was. And the first question is about it. Gab, will a couple of weeks of success in the Bundesliga be enough to get the other leagues to follow suit?
I mean, I think they already got what their impetus from the Bundesliga. I mean, I think it's almost like the argument in reverse. If, come Tuesday, and I'm saying this out loud because I want to jinx it, I don't want it to happen. But come Tuesday, it turns out that, Schalke infected all the Dortmund players, and now you have 20 guys who are infected from that game. All of a sudden, you can pretty much assume that the other leagues aren't going to come back if that happens, because the PR blow would be massive. In terms of it continuing, I think the work that the Bundesliga did until now can serve as a blueprint and has served as a blueprint for people trying to bring football back in England, Italy, and Spain. Going forward, in some ways, the Bundesliga has shown that they can do it. If something goes wrong, it's going to be down to the disease, not down to the Bundesliga.
Meanwhile, let's shift gears slightly. Shaka, what is the best save that you've ever made?
Oh, that was easy. The best save I ever made came early on in my time at Newcastle. We were at home against Liverpool. I think we were 1 down. Steve McManaman hit a shot that deflected off the back of, I think it may have been Darren Peacock. So I was going to my left, had to change directions, come back to my right, clawed it onto the post. Somehow it stayed out. And then we went on to win the game 2-1. So that was icing on the cake. But as just a standalone save, that was easily the best.
Meanwhile, Gab, who was more important to their club? Totti for Roma or Gerrard for Liverpool?
I'm going to argue Totti for Roma simply because the influence he had on the club going forward. I mean, beyond the fact that he stayed into his 40s, which Steven Gerrard did not. The fact that he never played for another club. But also I think Liverpool's setup was a little bit different. Obviously owners changed, managers changed, and I'm sure, especially as Gerrard grew older, maybe they considered his view, but he never had, I think, the sort of influence over the club, the sort of influence over a group of the fans that Totti did at Roma. So if you're talking influence, not who's better, who's nicer, whatever, don't want to get a bunch of angry Liverpool fans here, but if you're talking about influence over a club, especially all around, not just on the pitch, I think it's definitely Totti.
Shaka, I feel every time you're on, Steven Gerrard somehow gets mentioned in Extra Time.
Yeah, I blame you for that, Dan. You could have just skipped right over that question.
I don't choose the questions, do I? Right, Shaka, who was a better player in their prime? Wayne Rooney or Carlos Tevez?
Oh, in their prime. I'm going to go Wayne Rooney. I think just in terms of at their very best and what they produced and contributed for their respective clubs in their primes, however long a winner you want to call that. I think Wayne Rooney. Listen, there's also no doubting we're talking about two incredibly talented players. But for me, I just feel Rooney is the one you could count on and delivered probably more than Carlos Tevez.
Gab?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Rooney too, because the question says at their best. So I think, Rooney's highest highs or his best seasons, he was probably superior to Carlos Tevez. But there isn't much in it. And obviously, if you're talking 30-something Tevez versus 30-something Rooney, I think you would definitely switch the balance back towards Tevez.
Will the Bundesliga, Gab, be forced to drop its 50+1 rule in order for many clubs to survive?
You know what? I mean, they're certainly going to be under pressure to do so. People are going to petition. We know it's happened at Hoffenheim. You expect it to happen at Hertha as well. But this idea that you need this to survive, there's been so much doom and gloom, and I think some of it has been motivated doom and gloom. Seifert coming out and saying that, you know, a dozen clubs are going to go under and blah, blah, blah. You guys, it's a football club. Football clubs, unless they accumulate enormous amounts of debt or have bad, unscrupulous owners, they generally don't go bust. And then that's simply because a football club's main cost by far, you know, taking over 60, 70% of the revenues every year, is labor costs, is wages. And every year you can easily cut those wages because you've got a third to a fourth of the players who are out of contract. You can sell players to reduce your wage bill. There's a lot of flexibility there to cut costs. So I don't buy into this idea that all of a sudden, you know, that football can't cut costs. They can cut costs very easily, certainly far more than most other industries. So I don't think they need the 50+1 rule to survive at all. If you want to argue, do they need a 50+1 rule to go to the next level and compete globally? That's another issue. But to avoid survival going in the hands of some private equity guy, I don't know. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me. They'll be just fine.
Now for a question more up your street, Shaka. What is your drink of choice for each of the boys?
Oh, so the question is asking me what is my drink of choice?
Yes.
Not what I choose for. Well, I'll have you know, Dan, I'm drinking water right now. That generally is my drink of choice. When there isn't a bottle of water to be had, I'm a rum guy. I'm assuming we're talking.
You're a rum guy? Ah, yes. You won't be surprised to know, Shaka, yesterday I had a hard strawberry lemonade, which is very lovely.
Oh, well, that is in keeping with the man that you are, Dan Thomas, is all I'm going to say about that.
And Gab, we know you love a peanut butter martini.
I certainly do, yes. Look, it all depends on the situation. You know, what sort of cocktail
is a peanut butter
you're going
martini?
to have.
I want to know.
I did have a peanut butter martini because it was a sort of place, and Dan knows what I'm talking about, where a peanut butter martini was appropriate. And I'll tell you what, as evidence of the fact that it was a sort of place where a peanut butter martini would have been appropriate, who walked out and left almost after 5 minutes after we sat down saying, I can't take it, I can't take this place? One Craig Burley. Isn't that right, Dan?
Yes, Shaka, Gab was literally licking the glass dry of this peanut butter martini.
I've got a couple of questions. What is a peanut butter martini, and what kind of place is a peanut butter martini place? I'm struggling with those two concepts.
It's the sort of place that would traumatize Craig Burley and cause him to seek therapy. So, yeah, it's the sort of place with one of those enormous cocktail menus for people. Yeah, exactly. Enormous cocktail menus for people who don't drink cocktails, basically.
Okay,
final question. Shaka, do you think you're the smartest person on the show? I think you need to do a power rankings.
Okay, I'll do a power rankings. I'll be well down the list. Gab speaks what, 6 languages?
Who's one? Gab, but Gab has got so much useless information as well.
Yeah, but he's got useless information in 6 languages, Dan.
That's very true. Who is at the bottom? Who's at the bottom of the list, Shaka?
Well, I'm going to suggest one Stephen Nicol might be propping the table up.
You think so?
So I have the top, I have the bottom, and then we just, as I do with the regular power rankings, just throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
And see what happens.
Yeah.
But Gab at the top and Stevie at the bottom, they would be your kind of bookends.
Yes, without question. Without question.
Well, that's it. I think it's peanut butter martini time for everybody. Thank you very much, as always, for your tweets. ESPN FC back on your screens tomorrow. Of course, just a reminder, we are 7 days a week now. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.